She found the first one inside her bedroom clock. A lens, smaller than a fingernail, pointed directly at her bed. She stood there holding it for a long time before she had the courage to look around the rest of the room. There were 3 more. She had been living in that apartment for 8 months. This first account comes from a woman named A. She was 26, living alone in a furnished apartment she had rented from a private landlord. She told me she liked the apartment because it came fully equipped, furniture, appliances, even small decorative items already in place. She told me that detail is what she cannot stop thinking about now. I had lived there for 8 months before I found the first one. I was changing the battery in my bedside clock, one of those small, square digital clocks, nothing unusual, when I noticed the face of it felt slightly different from what I expected, slightly heavier. I turned it over. There was a hole drilled in the back, and inside the hole, a camera lens, tiny, precise, pointing directly through the clock face toward my bed. I put it down very carefully, the way you put something down when you were trying not to show that you have found it. Then I sat on the edge of my bed, and I thought about everything that clock had pointed at for 8 months. Every morning I woke up, every night I went to sleep, every private moment in between. I called my friend instead of the police. I do not know why. She came over and we searched the apartment together. We found 3 more. One inside a smoke detector in the bedroom ceiling, one inside a decorative picture frame in the living room, one inside a power adapter in the bathroom, pointed directly at the shower. All of them the same, all of them precisely placed, all of them there before I moved in. The police arrested my landlord 4 days later. He had access to the apartment between tenants. He knew exactly where to put them. When they searched his property, they found footage. 8 months of footage from my apartment and 6 others he managed. I have never rented a furnished apartment again. Every clock I own I have taken apart myself. Every smoke detector, every picture frame. I check them all, every single one. Because I know now that the things we never think to look at are exactly where they hide.
The second account was submitted by a couple named R and T. They had just moved into their first home together. New build house, brand new everything. They told me they felt completely safe because they were the first people to ever live there. They were wrong. We had been in the house for about 3 months when T noticed the Wi-Fi was slower than it should have been. We had a good package, fast speeds, but some evenings it crawled to almost nothing. I checked the router one night just to see how many devices were connected. There were 11. We had 6 devices between us, phones, laptops, tablets. That left 5 devices connected to our network that neither of us recognized. I assumed it was neighbors leeching off the signal somehow. I changed the password and thought nothing more of it. 2 weeks later, T mentioned that her laptop camera light, the small green light that activates when the camera is in use, had been flickering on by itself, late at night, when she was not using it. I checked the router again. 8 unrecognized devices, despite the new password. Someone had been inside our house. The police swept the property. Inside the loft space above our bedroom, they found a small wireless repeater, a device that had been hardwired into our electrical system and was broadcasting its own hidden network throughout the house. It had been installed during construction. The devices connected to it included cameras, 4 cameras, installed inside our walls before the plasterboard went up, before we ever moved in, before the house was even finished. Someone who worked on that building site had planned this before we ever existed in that house, before we were even the people who would live there. We were chosen before we ever made a single choice. The case is still open. No arrest has ever been made. We moved out the following week. We have never lived in a new build since, and T has tape over every camera on every device she owns. Every single one.
The third account tonight is the one that made me stop reading and sit quietly for a long time before I could continue. It was submitted by a man named C. He is a father. He went on holiday with his family for 2 weeks. He came back to find that in his absence, his home had not been empty at all. We were gone for 14 days, a family holiday. Me, my wife, our 2 daughters. We had a house sitter lined up, but she canceled last minute, so we left the house empty, locked up, alarmed. We came back on a Sunday evening. Everything looked normal, nothing disturbed, alarm intact, no signs of entry. I was checking through the house, old habit, I always do a walkthrough when we return, when I noticed something in my daughter's room. A small white device plugged into the wall socket behind her bookshelf. I did not recognize it. I thought perhaps my wife had bought a new air freshener or a nightlight. I asked her, she had not. I unplugged it and turned it over. It was a camera, a recording device with an internal memory card, plugged into the wall to keep it charged, pointed at my daughter's bed. I pulled every plug from every wall socket in that house. I found 4 more cameras, all in private spaces, all recording to internal memory cards, so they required no Wi-Fi connection, no network trail, no digital footprint of any kind. Someone had been inside my house while we were away. Someone who knew we would be gone for exactly 14 days. Someone who had a key or knew how to bypass the alarm. Someone who had thought about this carefully enough to use cameras with no network connection so they could not be traced remotely. The police found evidence of entry through a ground floor window. Clean, professional, no prints. The memory cards in the cameras had been wiped before we returned. Whoever installed them had come back while we were still away and cleared the footage. They came back a second time while my family was still on holiday, while my daughters were still sleeping in hotel beds 200 miles away. Someone was standing in their bedroom wiping a memory card. No arrest was ever made. My daughters do not know. I have never told them. I check every plug socket in that house every single night before bed. I always will.
The 4th account was submitted by a woman named Jay. She lived alone in a flat on the 4th floor of a managed building. She told me she always felt safe because she was high up, because the building had a concierge, because there were other people around. She told me none of that mattered in the end. The building had a maintenance contract. Engineers came in occasionally to check the heating system, the fire safety equipment, the communal areas. Standard stuff. They had a master key and access to all apartments for safety checks. I let one of them into my flat twice, once in October, once in February. Routine visits. He was polite, professional, in and out in under 20 minutes each time. In March, my bathroom extractor fan stopped working. I removed the cover to check if it was just a buildup of dust. Inside the fan housing, behind the motor, was a camera, professionally installed, connected to a small transmitter that was broadcasting over the building's communal Wi-Fi network. I called the building management immediately. They reviewed their records. The maintenance engineer who had visited my flat was a legitimate employee. He had been with the company for 3 years. He had access to every apartment in the building. When the police searched his home, they found footage from 14 different apartments across 4 different buildings he serviced. 14 apartments, bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms. He had been doing it for 3 years. 3 years of routine maintenance visits. 3 years of 14 apartments. 3 years of people who buzzed him in without a second thought because he wore a uniform and carried a clipboard and smiled and said good morning. He was sentenced to 4 years. He served 2. I have covered every extractor fan in every property I have lived in since that day. I will never stop.
The last account tonight was submitted anonymously. The person who sent it asked me not to share any details that could identify them. They told me they debated for a long time before sending it. They told me they decided to send it because they want other people to know what to look for. I want to tell you about a test first. Take your finger and press it against a mirror, any mirror. If there is a gap between your fingertip and its reflection, it is a normal mirror. The glass has depth and the reflection sits behind it. If your fingertip touches its own reflection with no gap, it may be two-way glass. The reflective surface is on the front of the glass, which means it can be seen through from the other side. I did not know this test until 2 years ago. I had been living in my flat for 14 months when a friend visited and showed it to me. She pressed her finger to my bathroom mirror. No gap. We stood there for a long time, not saying anything. The bathroom mirror was floor to ceiling, fixed to the wall, installed by the previous tenant who had owned the flat before the landlord purchased it and rented it to me. On the other side of that wall was the building's stairwell, a communal space accessible to every resident and every visitor in the building. The police removed the mirror that same day. Behind it, set into the wall, was a viewing cavity, large enough for a person to stand in, with footmarks on the floor, with a small ledge where someone could rest their arms while they stood and looked through. 14 months, every shower, every private moment, every night I stood in that bathroom alone, thinking nobody could see me. The previous tenant was identified. He had been back to the building after selling. The building logs showed his fob being used to access the communal stairwell 11 times in the 14 months I had lived there. 11 times he had stood on the other side of my bathroom mirror. He was prosecuted. He denied all charges. The case took 2 years. I moved out the same night the mirror came down. I have never gone back. The test is simple. Finger to the mirror. Look for the gap. Do it tonight. Do it in every mirror in your home. I wish someone had shown me sooner. 5 homes, 5 people who thought they were alone. The clock, the router, the plug socket, the fan cover, the mirror. The things we never think to look at. After tonight, look at them. If something has happened to you that you cannot explain, submit your story through the link in the description. I read every single one. Subscribe if you are brave enough to come back next week. Check your mirrors tonight, all of them. This has been Cold Midnights.